Good evening all. Can I have everyone's attention, please? We're going to have I'm going to propose a short adjournment just while we wait for everyone else to get into the chambers because of the accident out towards the A14 in Kettering. So can I have a seconder, please? Thank you. Can I have a show of hands?
For those in agreement.
In agreement? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, cheers. Come, get back here for 15:15, please. Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for taking their time to watch us online. And before we get started, may I inform all members and officers there's no public tonight, so that we are not expecting any fire drills. But in the event of a fire alarm ringing, please do not exit via the lift, but use the stairs via one of the main fire exits at either end of the chamber or public gallery. No one up there tonight. For those of you who are not familiar with the building, the toilets are just outside the members' area. I think that's self-explanatory because I think we all know where they are. I would like to politely ask everyone to make sure their phones are turned off or put on silent, and make sure your laptops are on silent as well, because we've had a few people with them in a few of the committees lately. I would like to remind all members that should they leave the chamber during the debate of any item, they should satisfy themselves that they have heard enough of the debate to vote in an instructive manner. Furthermore, I would like to also be grateful if all contributing can be concise and that the various time limits for the speeches are respected. At the relevant point, I will invite the monitoring officer to confirm the process relevant to the item we are debating. Depending on the length of the time for the meeting, it is also important that should we take a break, councillors return to the meeting at the allotted time in order that we can start promptly and recommence the meeting. Item number 1, apologies. Can I see Councillor Kellett, please?
Chair, thank you. We have 6 apologies tonight. Councillor Elizabeth Wright, Councillor John Lumsden, Councillor John Cavetta, Councillor Helen Campbell, Councillor Ashall and Councillor Matt Davis.
Thank you. Can I see the Conservative Party, please?
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have formal apologies from Councillor Jenny Bone, Councillor Barbara Jenny, and as I think some of you are aware, Councillor Helen Harrison is probably with other colleagues stuck in traffic and will get along as quickly as she possibly can. Thank you, Chair.
Can I see Councillor Towns, is he here? Or is it Green Party? Whoever's doing that for them.
Thank you, Chair. We've got 3 apologies tonight. So Councillors Emily Fedorovich, James Towns and Leanne Robertson.
Okay, thank you. Can I see the Labour Party, please? Oh.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. Just the one apologies tonight, which is from Councillor Pengelly.
Thank you very much. And Jim Hakewell. Councillor Hakewell, please.
Thank you. 100% attendance from the Community Alliance.
Always good to hear. Thank you, Jim. Are there any other apologies to be recorded? No, thank you. Agenda 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest that councillors wish to make related to items of business to be discussed? No, thank you. Agenda number 3, public participation. We haven't got any public tonight, so that one's... Okay, we haven't got any public statements. Sorry, this is my first time. No, it's fine. I can confirm there are no public questions either. Right, agenda item 4, corporate peer challenge progress review. So please can I see Councillor Martin Griffiths?
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Chair. Can I first wish our Chair a very speedy recovery from her illness. We wish her back as soon as possible. Colleagues, this evening I'm pleased to introduce the Corporate Peer Challenge Progress Review Report and its appendices. As we know, the Peer Challenge Progress Review is an important checkpoint in the sector-led improvement process led by the Local Government Association. It gives an external and independent view of the progress that this council is making. It follows the council's first corporate peer challenge in September 2024 and the action plan endorsed by full council in December 2024. Since then, the LGA peer team returned for a progress review on the 13th of October 2025. Their independent feedback set out in Appendix B recognises real and meaningful process against all 7 original recommendations, which is especially noteworthy given last year's elections, a new administration and 47 newly elected members. And the visit was not a case of the council marking its own homework. Over the course of the day, the peer team met 45 people, including the executive, corporate leadership team, opposition leaders, scrutiny chairs, Northamptonshire's Children's Trust, frontline staff and key local partners from the public and voluntary sector. This gave the peer team a rounded and transparent view of how we work at this council. The peer review team found a strengthened relationship between members and senior officers, clearer planning and a number of other improvements that are making a real progress and a real difference for residents, our staff and our local partners. Appendix A provides our position statement, an updated action plan that we submitted to the review team ahead of their visit in October 25. This captures what we have done as a council since the first peer review. From developing a more robust corporate planning framework and the plans to introduce an annual delivery plan to progress on the One Council programme. This has seen us make sound progress in building our council's IT foundations as well as the council's culture and capacity we need. It also summarises the steps we've taken to further improve financial governance and to improve scrutiny and partnership working. All vital areas, I'm sure you will all agree. I would like to focus in some headlines from the peer review's feedback. Number 1, a stronger golden thread and clearer direction. The LGA notes the opportunity presented by our new corporate plan and the supporting planning framework to align political ambition with operational delivery, from strategies to service plans and individual objectives. I focus on this because since the peer review team follow-up visit in October, we have unanimously adopted a new corporate plan at full council, and we are now working to embed this further in everything we do. With regard to the corporate plan, councillors, its publication and unanimous cross-party support somehow missed coverage in the local media. Not a dicky bird, basically. So please, Steph, Kate, Alison, Nadia, Sarah, Laura, do a piece about it because it saves me having to refer back to it at future meetings. Number 2, the second area I wanted to highlight is improved financial oversight. The peer team welcomed a simplified budget reporting and the creation of a budget, performance and risk board to strengthen corporate ownership. They are clear, however, that we must keep focus on transparent in-year mitigations and a pipeline of preventative actions to ensure long-term sustainability. I know that this is an area that Councillor Graham Cheatley and our talented finance colleagues have in hand. Thirdly, I wanted to acknowledge what the peer review said about our children's services. The peers recognise stronger joint working with the Children's Trust, the establishment of a dedicated scrutiny committee and momentum on corporate parenting. Their advice is to keep sharpening the preventative offer, align social care and SEND pathways, and ensure that we develop a clearer understanding of the actual cost of delivering children's social care services. Again, that is reflected in our next steps. Number 4, the peers also highlighted our approach to building strong and meaningful external partnerships through the identity-led Big 50 board. Our very first resident satisfaction survey and new economic strategy was noted in the report. This gives us a platform from which to raise our profile, both with genuine engagement with our residents and increase North Northamptonshire's voice regionally and nationally with investors, peer councils, and importantly, central government. There are also positive reflections on our workforce and organisational development. The peers highlighted the creation of a new organisation development function, brilliant basics through our One Council philosophy, from computer device and workspace upgrades to a single staff access card, and importantly, reducing staff turnover too. The message from our peers is encouraging. Good progress, clear direction, but of course, more work to do. And we are committed to doing it. So what happens next? The report asks Council to accept the findings of the Local Government Association Peer Challenge Progress Review report and note the ongoing progress detailed in the action plan contained within the position statement. Note the inclusion of the recommendations and further actions within the Council's annual delivery plan to be agreed by corporate leadership team and the executive. I'm sure you will all join me in saying thank you to all of those involved in the peer review. I want to thank our staff, our members and partners who engage so openly in this process. And I would also like to thank the LGA peer team for their constructive challenge and insight. The report is a real endorsement of the progress that we have made, and I look forward to working with you all to continue listening and delivering for our residents and giving North Northamptonshire the voice regionally and nationally that it deserves. Chair, I'm proud to move the recommendations as set out in this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Griffiths. Just for a moment, I'm just going to go to the monitoring officer because she would like to clarify something.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to remind all speakers that moving motions or recommendations are capped at 5 minutes and seconding is 3 minutes. You may reserve your right to speak and you'll be called to speak at the end of the debate. Any other speeches during the debate are also 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I please see Councillor Hakewell to second this recommendation, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to second this recommendation. The first peer challenge I was involved in was in Boston, the one in Lincolnshire, not the one in America, and that was in the year 2000. Since that time, I've been involved in around 50 similar peer reviews over 25 years. I very much applaud the peer review process and the value that it has to councils, and indeed, from my own point of view, and I know other councillors, the leader as well, when we go away and do peer reviews elsewhere, how valuable that is to our own council and our wider knowledge. I was involved in our actual challenge in September 2024, was interviewed at that time, and then the follow-up in October 2025. This is a solid assessment of NNC's progress since vesting day in April 2021. The recommendations are enshrined in the newly adopted corporate plan, which will further filter through all the work of the council in these ensuing years. I'm very happy to second this recommendation, and I'm looking forward to scrutinising progress over the next years. Well done to NNC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Brackenbury, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. And again, in concert with everybody else, of course, we welcome the Corporate Peer Challenge, which, to remind members, was of course commissioned originally under the previous administration, and this is in fact the findings of the follow-up visit that they made. Nevertheless, it does reflect enormous credit on the officer team and all those who have participated in the Peer Challenge and the work that they've done in promoting the work of the council. So, great credit to them. I just hope that the comments that were made by the peer team are taken on board and that the recommendations are looked at and complied with as far as possible. I mean, it's very good. All these peer challenges, they will always say the positives, and they will always point out some of the areas of improvement. So let's just look at it in the round and continue to work to further the good work the council's doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Harrington, please?
And thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to say, actually, that reading through this, and I have read it all, that it's made an old man very happy. I have to say that I'm delighted to see that our council has made, and I quote, this is their words, not mine, real and meaningful progress in all 7 recommendations. And it then goes on to say that it is particularly impressive under a new administration. I know only well enough that everyone has worked very hard on this, and our team really put a great deal into it. And it's good to have our hard work recognised in this way. So I want to say well done, team. And I don't just mean the exec, I mean all of these members of ours here on the Reform UK side. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I please see Councillor Baker?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councillor Griffiths for the introduction of the Corporate Peer Challenge follow-up and the accompanying points. It is recognised that there are some real improvements and positives to take from the work that's set out, in particular in 4.7 of the report background. And congratulations and thanks to everyone involved in making the significant improvements that are highlighted. And we do look forward to that continuing over the course of this council. We would like to take this opportunity, though, to raise a matter of detail. As we note in recommendation 5.3 of the Progress Review Position Statement, that there is reference to the Executive Scrutiny Protocol that was approved by Executive on the 14th of October, and that further work has been identified to support in the understanding of the role of scrutiny. Having reviewed that protocol again, in light of this, we are concerned with compliance, certainly as far as the scrutiny committee that I sit on is concerned, and that is place and environment, and specifically with regard to attendance and input by executive councillors. That protocol makes various references that executive councillors should attend and engage at scrutiny meetings, often where requested, but also where there are agenda items that fall under their remit, and which is nearly always the case. However, unless I'm mistaken, there were no executive councillors that subsequently attended P&E scrutiny on the 16th of December. No apologies for non-attendance from executive councillors were read out at that meeting. And in fact, and again, unless I'm mistaken, there has been next to no input of executive councillors at any P&E Scrutiny Committee meeting under this council. And that includes when executive councillors attended P&E on the 2nd of September on the carbon management plan discussions. There was a meeting that yourself, Councillor Griffiths, also attended. So I'm glad that this has been raised within the position statement. Clearly there is more that needs to be done to ensure that the principles contained within that protocol are being followed, and specifically with regard to executive
10 seconds remaining.
councillors. Thank you, Chair. We would hope that this is monitored, that specific point, by the monitoring officer, and hopefully the results of that monitoring can be fed back to this council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I please see Councillor Wilcox, please?
Chair, colleagues, I welcome the findings of the Corporate Peer Challenge Progress Review and to speak from the perspective of the community's portfolio, because ultimately every improvement we make as a council must land where it matters most, in our communities, our neighbourhoods and in the lives of our residents across North Northamptonshire. What this review makes clear is that our council is now moving with purpose and unity and maturity. Despite a period of significant political change and the arrival of 40 plus new members, we have maintained stability, strengthened relationships and continue to deliver for our residents. From a community's standpoint, there are three areas I particularly wanted to highlight. Firstly, our growing culture of partnership. The peer team recognise the work we have done to build on outward-looking council with stronger relationships across the voluntary sector, health services, community partners and the anchor institutions. Initiatives such as the Big 50 Vision, the Resident Satisfaction Survey and the development of our new corporate plan all signal a council that is increasingly connected, collaborative and engaged with the people it serves. We know that strong communities don't just emerge from policy, they grow from trust, communication and meaningful local involvement. Our challenge now is to deepen that relationship, ensuring residents' voices continue to drive our priorities. Secondly, communities depend on strong foundations, and the peer team commended our strides in governance, financial oversight and our brilliant basics. These improvements matter because they are the bedrock of a safe, resilient and thriving neighbourhood. Whether it is reliable digital access, safer public spaces, stronger safeguarding or effective scrutiny, the quality of our internal systems directly affects the quality of service our residents experience. And I want to highlight a community's portfolio is not just about place, it's about people. The improvements in joint working and the development of our lifelong corporate parenting strategy show that we are serious about protecting and empowering our most vulnerable young people. Thirdly, there is more to do. The review is clear. Our communities need us to continue to build preventative services, strengthening partnerships and raise our regional voice. It challenges us to embed the new corporate plan so that every service and every team, every project...
Your 3 minutes is allotted.
Sorry?
Can you finish off because your 3 minutes is up, please?
Okay. Thank you, Chair. The progress review is not just a pat on the back. It tells us we are on the right path, but it also challenges us to go further, faster.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I please see Councillor Bennyworth?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. I think what I would like to say has already been echoed by a lot of my colleagues around the room, but I want to start by recognising the professionalism and commitment demonstrated by everybody involved throughout the review process. The feedback that we have received from the LGA peer review is not only positive, but it reflects real organisational maturity. As others have said, including the leader, the team found strong evidence of real meaningful progress across all 7 recommendations, and that's to be commended. It praised the Council for maintaining momentum despite significant political change. This is an achievement that should not be understated and demonstrates a strong, authentic and credible leadership of which we should all be proud. I particularly want to pay tribute to our Chief Executive and the corporate leadership team for their continued efforts. As many of you may or may not know, as a former Human Resources Director for many years, I want to comment from an organisational development perspective, and I wanted to highlight several areas where, for me, real progress is evident. These have been mentioned before, but just quickly going through them. The corporate planning framework, a maturing One Council culture, enhanced financial governance, and growing organisational focus on leadership, capability and culture through OD initiatives, workforce planning and continuous staff engagement. And importantly, a clearer focus and more integrated approach to children's services, underpinned by stronger relationships with the Children's Trust and a commitment across the whole Council. These developments reflect a Council that is learning, adapting and continuously improving. Organisational development is not about just ticking boxes. It's about systems, behaviours, leadership, and a culture that is all moving in the same direction. The LGA peer team recognised these strengths clearly. Finally, I'd like to place on record my thanks to our officers, our partners, and to members across the Chamber for contributing to this progress. We must also acknowledge that report is honest about areas where further work is needed. Recognising those gaps and being willing to address them is in itself a mark of a mature organisation. This is a strong and encouraging review, and I welcome it wholeheartedly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Cheatley, please?
Good evening, Chair, members. I wanted to briefly set out the clear progress this Council has made since the peer review, particularly in strengthening our financial planning, ownership and capability. One of the most visible improvements has been the redesign of our budget monitoring reports. These are now simpler, clearer and more accessible to officers, members and residents. Importantly, the financial narrative now focuses on the Council's key challenges, risks and achievements, both corporately and at directorate level, rather than just raw figures. That work is continuing, with financial monitoring now being developed alongside core performance indicators, providing a clearer, at-a-glance view of the overall health of the organisation. We've also established a monthly budget performance and risk board, ensuring full engagement of the corporate leadership team in understanding financial pressures, workforce issues, customer complaints and compliance. This, I believe, strengthens collective ownership and ensures mitigations are identified early, either in year or through the medium-term financial plan, supported by regular engagement with myself as portfolio holder and the leader. Alongside governance improvements, we have invested in financial capability. Budget management training has been rolled out across the organisation, supported by refresher learning through the Council's iLearn system and targeted training in technical areas such as VAT. Importantly, the Council has completed a skills gap analysis of the finance function and has a clear programme in place to ensure it is fit for purpose by Q1 of this year. New monitoring and modelling approaches are being developed to support better resource and capacity planning. We're also moving decisively towards data-led and predictive financial management. A new fabric data platform has been procured, data analysts are being trained across finance and performance, and specialist external support has been brought in to support implementation. Finally, the evolution of the One Council programme into a strategic transformation framework with clearer prioritisation and long-term planning ensures that financial sustainability and service reform are now fully aligned. This is tangible, measurable progress, and it shows a Council that is learning, maturing and building the right foundations for the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Wendy Brackenbury, please?
Here that the building blocks laid down by the previous Conservative administration continue to be built upon, including those improvements that were made following the Corporate Peer Challenge in September 2024. So it's great to hear that they continue to be built upon. And I echo the thanks already given to our officers, partners, and both previous and current members across this chamber involved in those improvements. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Geary, please?
This report has the potential to drive this county further in the future to success. I've got a couple of points I want to make on working together and extending our face to the outside world. On working together in the report, it says one of the major factors is bringing opposition leaders together. I've noticed some evidence of getting other parties involved and ready on a personal basis, and I note in some of the scrutiny committees to prevent the accusation of marking your own homework. Non-leading party members have been brought forward, and I would encourage that further to develop the whole councillor group as an organisation further. And I'll have to see more evidence of that going forward. And as a member of the Green Party, I support collaborative approaches where appropriate, because I believe as opposition members, not only do we challenge, but we also support where appropriate. In terms of the report itself, one of the features is an opportunity to work collaboratively together is on the side of our external face. Martin mentioned media earlier, and on promotion. Many councillors have put initiatives forward to promote themselves externally to the outside world, and typically a lot of those promotions have not been particularly successful. So if we're going to do that, we need full-blooded support from the whole of the county, and we need to lead that process, delegating that to outside organisations and businesses who are already working in a very, very tough environment can be variable in terms of its performance. By taking an opportunity to move forward and maybe using that as a method of developing our future councillor leaders would be appropriate. On the media side, unfortunately, I can't solve that solution of the media reporting bad issues. It's human behaviour to talk about the car crash on the motorway rather than the beautiful flowered woodlands on the other side. It's human nature. Our role as councillors is, when we have been successful, is to report that appropriately and to be open and as far honest as we like. Sometimes the media will report things that we'd like to put underneath the carpet. Unfortunately, we have to deal with those and listen as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Fairhall, please?
A really good read and great to feel a part of the organisation that is North Northants. A couple of points. Recommendation 4, an NNC leadership of Children and Young People Services. I really support and endorse the Corporate Parenting Board proposed actions, but believe that we can go further and farther. I've fed some thoughts into the monitoring officer, but basically at the moment the Corporate Parenting Board sits under the radar. The meetings aren't recorded and shown, the papers aren't available. So I just think we can do more to bring it very much to the fore and really show that we are championing our role, our statutory role around corporate parenting. So I hope we can take that forward in the coming years. And in terms of recommendation 1, strengthen the council's focus, prioritisation and planning. I was very pleased to hear when Martin introduced the corporate plan that he mentioned an annual delivery plan, and I think that's an excellent development. However, there's no sign of it yet. There's no sign of it on the forward plan. So I do look forward to sort of receiving more information about the annual delivery plan and receiving it at council or by other means. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Eddie MacDonald, please?
Thank you, Chair. This was an important visit for this administration. 90% of our group are all fresh-faced. Well, that's what I was going to say, but then I looked around the room, and especially at my group, and thought maybe I should say we're just newly elected members to this chamber. We believed that we were starting out right. We were building relationships, getting to understand the local government processes and our own roles within it. We believed that we knew what was required and how to do it. I speak from a lived experience here. I was like Moses. I'd just come down from Mount Sinai, clutching my 10 commandments, only be told by some senior officers who aren't a million miles away what was possible with potentially adverse outcomes, and what was a no-no.
So belief is one thing, testing that belief is another. So I believed I could pass my promotion exam. I believed that I could earn my black belt. And we believed that we would win the May elections and deliver the next budget. The Corporate Peer Challenge is the testing. Its findings are a respected tool for the sector. It tested our belief in ourselves as a council, so it was very pleasing for me to read the very positive feedback and their observations about ourselves as members and the relationships with our amazing officers. Now, for me, the standout observations were that they recognised that most of us are on a steep learning curve, and we're not too proud or too arrogant to ask for assistance in order to be more effective and efficient in our role. They also recognised that those members with no previous unitary experience have brought fresh perspective and a wealth of experience across a broad range of fields. It's a fantastic review. There are still some areas to develop, aren't there always? And I have every confidence that this council, that's all of us, members and officers, will meet the challenge and we will be an exemplar council. I commend this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Howell, please?
Thank you, Vice Chair. So I think we all welcome this peer review challenge. Nobody in this chamber wants this council to fail in any way, and any improvements that are made benefit all of our residents, no matter what party is in administration. So I think congratulations all round, I think, for everybody, if these are the actual improvements that are being made. I also welcome Councillor Baker's comments with regarding to scrutiny and having our executive members attend scrutiny when we were in administration. It's something we certainly did do when we had an item on the agenda that was relating to our portfolio. So I would really welcome that happening, and also having those executive members there so that they can ask questions. If they wish to take ownership of their portfolio, they should be able to do that. I also welcome the comments by Councillor Wilcox about community engagement. I would just suggest that that happens prior to any decisions being made and not after. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I have no other councillors registered to speak, so please may I see Councillor Griffiths to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Chair. There's a lot there, wasn't there, basically? I regularly refer to the work of the previous administration. I've done it on numerous occasions, and I regularly refer to the need for us to work cross-party, and I'll stick to that as long as I'm leader of this council. Councillor Baker raises a very good point, and we will, as an executive, support corporate scrutiny and other scrutiny meetings on an ongoing basis. As a lead peer, and Councillor Brackenbury is also a peer, knows that this was a good report. I think there is absolutely no doubt about that. I've seen good, I've seen average, and I've seen poor peer reviews. This is a good report, but there is always more to do. So I will take those points on board. Our relationship was mentioned with the voluntary organisations. Well, our Chief Executive and I attended a brilliant session with our voluntary team yesterday. Our voluntary teams across the whole of Northamptonshire. It was very, very positive. And I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll put a note out to all members following on from that meeting, and we can actually give you an update of who was attending and the response that we had from our voluntary groups. Thank you ever so much for your comments. I will watch this again later tonight, and I'll take them on board, and thank you ever so much for your cooperation and your comments. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We will now move to the vote. Please use the electronic voting button, which will appear on your microphone unit once the vote has commenced. You have 30 seconds to vote.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results were as follows. 54 in favour, 0 against, 0 abstentions.
The vote is carried. Thank you very much. Right, we move to agenda 5 on the item, review of the planning committee. Please may I see Councillor Jan O'Hara to move recommendation in this report.
Thank you, Chair. At the May 2025 annual council meeting, council decided to reduce the then Strategic Area Planning North Committee and Strategic Area Planning South Committee to a single authority-wide planning committee. Further to the motion approved by council on 3rd of September 25, this report provides for a standalone debate and decision to be taken regarding the number of planning committees we should have, how they should be configured, and the membership of the committees thereof. I would like to thank officers for providing the review of the data at section 5 of the report for the schedule of planning meetings between May 23 and May 2025, and also from May 2025 onwards. As also notes that the Planning Infrastructure Act 2025, which received royal assent on 18th of December 2025, subsequent regulations which may prescribe mandatory parameters to committee size and composition are anticipated, and these will be kept under review by our monitoring officer and Head of Development Management and Planning Enforcement. Chair, I would like to move the recommendations set out in the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor O'Hara. Can I please see Councillor Kirk Harrison, to second this recommendation?
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the report and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much. Can I please go to Councillor Wendy Brackenbury?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor O'Hara just said that the council decided back in May that we would go to one committee. The council didn't decide in May. We didn't have the option to debate this, hence it coming back this evening. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, can I go to Councillor Helen Harrison, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, this is all terribly inspiring, isn't it? A wholly bureaucratic proposal, entirely devoid of any human context. We've been given a series of numbers, average number of hours of meetings, numbers of applications, numbers of meetings we're told about cost. We've had it gravely explained that the Planning Advisory Service says ... as if this is the wisdom, this wisdom is the final word, when in fact it's just the current received wisdom in the system, unchallenged, unchanging, and implemented everywhere as if it must be right because that's what everyone else does. The grey, dreary solution of the technocrat. Where was the passionate defence of our residents and our communities? Where was the acknowledgement of the very real impact that planning has on the well-being of those we serve? Modern developments devoid of character with houses crammed in and not enough parking, inappropriate industrial development, blighting our precious countryside, solar panels, defacing vast swathes of agricultural land, smaller but equally unwanted and inappropriate dwellings in areas of great sensitivity. What has happened to localism? The idea of decisions being made as close to the people as they serve as possible. I thought that Reform UK was supposed to be the champions of the people. But here they are, centralising and pulling power into the hands of fewer and fewer people. The voice and judgment of local councillors who know their area is being replaced by a small group of people who much of the time will be deciding on the fate of a community they know very little about. How many people in this room know the village of Harringworth? for example, or any of the other 24 villages in my ward. I think it's troubling that on coming to power in May last year, when most of the councillors were new and inexperienced, the first decision of the new administration was to sneak through this decision to go from 2 area committees to 1 by subterfuge. It doesn't say much for their belief in open, transparent democracy. I know that I will not be able to change the administration's mind on this issue, so I will not waste the council's time by proposing an amendment. But I will show my dismay at the way this issue has been handled and the move away from localism by voting against the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I can confirm I have received no other councillors registered to speak. Yeah, so can I go back to Councillor Kirk Harrison as a seconder?
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I'm rather confused now about the tirade that we've just been subjected to. I don't really think it was overly relevant to the decision that was been made. I feel that there was no subterfuge. It was put forward in a report. So other than not reading the report properly, I'm a bit confused about why on earth subterfuge was even mentioned. Nevertheless, this report is ultimately about governance. Of course it is. It's about efficiency and how we use our member and officer time responsibly. It's worth highlighting the data, that unimportant data, of course, in the report. Under the previous 2 committee systems, both committees were consistently underutilised, meetings were cancelled, agendas were cut short, and the system did not operate at the level of demand that it was designed for. But the lived experience also reflects that data. I sat on one of those committees for 3 years, and I can confirm that it was not unusual for meetings to be cancelled altogether, or even agenda light when they did go ahead. By contrast, the current single planning committee is now operating at almost exactly the level of demand that was originally modelled as optimum. Average applications per meeting are where they should be. Officer preparation time is better focused. Member time is used more effectively. This report does make it clear that when the committee meets, it does so with meaningful business and with a consistency of approach. This is essential to defensible decisions and to reduce the risk of appeal or challenge. Increasing the number of committees would increase the number of meetings, increase officer attendance, increase preparation time with no clear evidence of any improved outcomes. It's also worth noting that future legislative changes may well constrain committee size and composition. Retaining a single efficient model gives us flexibility rather than locking us into future change. For these reasons, I support the recommendations in the report. They're evidence-based, they're proportionate, and they're consistent with the huge improvements that have been made in the planning service recently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Bear with me a moment.
Councillor Wendy Brackenbury, your voting handset's on there to speak. Was that accidental? Oh, sorry, we've had the mover, we've had the seconder, we'll be moving to the voting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Jan O'Hara as a final speaker, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just a few points, really. The Council is delivering an ambitious planning improvement programme aligned to the Council's plan for the future modernisation system, processes and culture. We've worked really hard with our officers, with our communities, to try and make it so that our planning department is efficient and listens to our communities. We ensure that when planning applications are submitted, that we look at them and we are collaborative with those who submit those applications. And if there is any concerns over them, if there's anybody writes in and wishes to raise an appeal against them, we are actually calling them in. So they do come to planning committee. We're actually we are listening to our communities. Work is progressing to combine the legacy planning databases into a single modernised system, giving residents a consistent experience, improving access to planning information, and being very transparent and generating long-term financial savings. If I might say, in the 12 months to September 2025, the service achieved 98.4% of major applications determined within agreed timescales, above both the England average of 90.8% and East Midlands average of 90.8%. 91.4% of non-major applications determined on time, outperforming England's average of 91%. These figures demonstrate strong productivity improvement during a period of significant change. Our staff have moved from working from home, and they've now moved into an office where they're integrated, and they're actually, the structure of the development and management enforcement is now near completion, with implementation scheduled to go live on the 2nd of February 2026. The new structure seeks to retain our current officers, enable career development and promotion, facilitate collaboration across the different professional skills within planning, and work in an agile manner to respond to the ebb and flow of plan applications. I think you might agree that actually we are listening to our communities and we are supporting our staff who have gone through a lot of change.
Hara, is there much left of your...
Pardon?
Is there much left to go?
No, I've almost finished. I just wanted to finish by saying that I'm proud of all our officers have embraced.
Councillor, may I just add that the purpose of your final address is to address any points raised during the debate which you didn't cover when moving. These seem to be new points raised, so unless it's relating to the points that were put forward in the debate, may I ask you to conclude that part of your speech?
Yeah, that's sorry, Chair. I was trying to do that by addressing and providing some figures for that. I just wanted to say, you know, our officers have worked really hard to bring this together. And I would like to suggest we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Right, we would like to move to the vote, so please use the electronic button on the voting handset in front of you. And unit once, excuse me, this is my meeting. Right, I will start again. We would now like to move to the vote. Please use the electronic buttons in front of you, which will appear on your microphone unit once the vote has commenced. You have 30 seconds to vote. Thank you very much.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results were as follows: 35 in favour, 14 against, 5 abstentions.
Thank you very much. The vote is carried. We would like to move to agenda 6.
Could I just pause one more?
Okay, 1 minute, sorry. Bear with me a moment. Agenda 6. Agenda 6.
Discussions going on. This is a proper council meeting, and there's a way of conducting council business, and it seems to have deteriorated today. I don't know why.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. That isn't necessarily a point of order for raising, but I'm sure members in the chamber will observe that courtesy to each other.
Right, we digress. Item number 6, Independent Remuneration Panel Review of the Member Scheme of Allowance. Please may I see Camilla, Monitoring Officer, Director of Law and Governance and Monitoring Officer, I just said that, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank the chair of the Independent Remuneration Panel, who is actually here with us this evening to present his report. There is a cover report attached within your papers, starting at page 69 of the agenda pack, but I would like to welcome Mr. Davison to present the report of the Independent Remuneration Panel. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, elected members, officers of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Chris Davison. Some of you in this room already know me. I was the former lead governor of Northamptonshire Healthcare, NHS Foundation Trust. I'm a member of the Kettering Cultural Consortium through my role as chair of the Friends of Kettering Library, and I'm also chair of the Board of Trustees at Kettering Mind, the mental health charity. But tonight I am here in my capacity as chair of the Independent Remuneration Panel. This has been quite an exercise. Last late summer, of the 5 members of the panel that existed before, 3 of us were new and were appointed. 2 former members stood to be reappointed. And I would like to thank them. That's Jed Dempsey, Sue Watts, who came from the previous IRP, and the new members, as well as myself, were Craig Ellis and Luke Bacon. We all offer a different professional lens and insight and background and experience to this specific task that is governed by legislation. I would also like to thank members of the NNC Democratic Services team for helping us and supporting us during this process. You will see from the pack that you have before you in our executive summary that we met in the autumn to review the members' allowances scheme in accordance with the local authorities' members' allowances regulations from 2003. The review considered changes since the last review in 2022, including governance changes, reduction in councillor numbers, and workload implications. I'm not going to go through the report in detail. You can see on page 3 we've given a summary of our investigations, how we undertook the task, but would like to refer you to the appendices. First of all, Appendix A, which outlines our terms of reference. Appendix B, which is the councillor feedback, and some of you in the meeting tonight were involved in that process, whether that be through written responses to questionnaires or in the feedback sessions that we organised to have face-to-face feedback. Appendix C looks at comparative authorities. It looks at benchmarking data as we looked at our deliberations. Appendix D provides information on Northants demographic and remuneration. And Appendix E sets out the remuneration recommendation in detail. One of the fundamental principles we adopted when entering this exercise is the allowances that are paid to NNC elected members fair and reasonable. And that was one of our guiding principles. And before I conclude, I would just like to refer you to paragraph
6.5, child independent carers allowances, and also 6.6, parental leave. One of our recommendations is that the Council should actively promote the child and dependent carers allowance to both prospective and new councillors, both before and following an election. We believe that this would assist in supporting greater diversity of councillor representation and being more representative of the communities you serve. As I say, I'm not going to go through line by line. You'll be pleased to hear that the recommendations are clearly set out. But I would like to close by saying, again, thank you to my colleague panel members for this important piece of work. It has been quite an exercise, but nonetheless, it is comprehensive, it is professional, it is evidence-based, and I commend it to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davison. Please, for your report, can I please ask you to go to the other side of the chamber, please? Thank you. Can I go to the monitoring officer because she would like to have a word?
Thank you. Just to take members back to the covering report, and once again, thank you for Mr. Davison's presentation and the work of the panel. I'm sure members in the chamber appreciate the work that has gone into that. For the purpose of the recommendations and voting this evening, the recommendations will be displayed on the screen for you in full. We will take a mover and a seconder. When the debate is concluded, we will move through each recommendation in turn. There will be a total of 10 votes as a result of that. We will take you to each vote on the screen, so you will see that one, and then it will also be displayed on your handset. Just to make that a little bit easier for you to transact the business during the debate. So I'll hand back to the chair, who'll be now inviting a mover, then a seconder.
Please may I see Councillor Griffiths as mover of this recommendation in this report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Chair. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Independent Remuneration Panel chaired by Mr. Chris Davison for the time, care and professionalism that they have brought to this review, and for the comprehensive report set out in the agenda. Mr. Deputy Chair, the panel has made its recommendations independently and in good faith. However, in the context of a disappointing government settlement and the difficult financial position facing local government, including the need to increase council tax in order to protect those services that our residents value the most, I do not believe that now is the right time to accept even a modest increase in members' allowances and special allowance responsibilities. I say that fully acknowledging the commitment and workload of councillors, especially since the elections last May. Members have undertaken extensive training, attended numerous scrutiny committees, council meetings, represented the council on outside bodies, and carried out significant ward work in support of their residents and their communities. Nevertheless, at a time when residents are being asked to contribute more and when the council remains under financial pressure, I believe it would be wrong to place any additional burden on the taxpayer. On that basis, Mr. Deputy Chair, I'm very happy for debate if members wish to speak, but I feel I've made my position as leader of North Northamptonshire Council extremely clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I please see Councillor Gibbs as seconder of this recommendation, please?
Thank you, Chair. Fellow members, North Northamptonshire Council is an amazing council. It's a great place to serve with dedicated colleagues across the whole chamber who work tirelessly every day to deliver for our residents. That said, I do believe members' allowances in North Northamptonshire should be higher. In this chamber, there is a spectrum, and at one end are those fortunate enough not to rely on these allowances, individuals who generously donate their payments to worthy causes. One councillor in the group that I'm aware of will have donated his entire allowance to a local charity by the end of this financial year. That's very admirable. At the other end are the younger councillors who are on lower incomes, and the hard-working people of Alarm Clock Britain, men and women who get up early, graft all day in their jobs and their businesses, and then give their evenings and weekends to represent their communities here in Northamptonshire. These are exactly the voices we need more of inside this chamber to make our council even stronger and more representative of the people we serve. But I won't bury the lead. I'm just going to say now, I'll be voting against any increases, and here are my reasons why. First, the current level of allowances in Northamptonshire acts as a real barrier to the very diversity that we need. It forces potential candidates, especially the younger individuals, the working parents and those without independent means, to face an impossible choice: risk the stability of their job, reduce their hours, dedicate less time to grow their business, or even step away from some of their family responsibilities to serve. I've no doubt that everyone in this chamber goes above and beyond to put the time in, yet I've had countless conversations with talented local people who look at the role and ask, quite reasonably, why would I do that for less than minimum wage? Democracy works best when the full range of life experiences is represented around this table, when this chamber truly reflects the communities we serve, not just those who can afford to give their time for little or no financial support. The current allowances are the very opposite of encouraging that breadth of inclusivity. So why, given all of that, am I not supporting an increase now? The timing's simply wrong. This decision comes at a moment when Northamptonshire Council is under immense financial strain. We are protecting frontline services against rising demand in children's and adult social care, home to school transport pressures, waste, street scene costs, potholes and everything else. And on top of those ongoing challenges, we've just been dealt a huge significant blow by the so-called FAIR Funding Review 2.0. And our funding outlook remains one of the most challenging among similar councils. In this context, increasing members' allowances would send the wrong signal, and at a time when we're asking residents, our communities across Northamptonshire, to tighten our belts, and when every pound must be prioritised towards protecting the vulnerable, maintaining essential services, and keeping our finances sustainable. I do support a future review and increase to allowances to make Northamptonshire Council service truly accessible to all, and I hope this dream of a more inclusive council can happen one day, but now is not the right time. What we do in this chamber isn't about us or for us. We shouldn't even be forced to make this decision ourselves. Within this chamber, the priority should be representing our residents and communities, not getting caught up in these kinds of debates. I urge colleagues to join me in voting against these increases so we can get back to focusing on what really matters, contributing to deliver for the people of Northamptonshire.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Hakewell, please? Hakewell? Yeah.
Thank you. Chairman, I've spoken on a few reviews of allowances over time. In the early days, the 1980s, we got £12.50 per meeting attended. Strangely, Chairman, attendance was high. My basic principle is that as we engage an independent team to review the allowances appropriate to our role as councillors, we should accept their findings. I took the opportunity to go and speak on Teams to the panel and respond to their questions. I have no doubt that the panel was independent and made these recommendations on behalf of the communities that we serve. The new council we are now serving on has 10 less councillors than the first 4 years, 78 to 68. Although, Chairman, there was a proposal from one group for 99, which I always found amusing. We have less councillors working for an expanding community. I will support the recommendations as presented by the independent panel, and I thank them for their time and diligence in preparing this report. The independent panel sets aside politics, and I hope we will do the same and agree these recommendations as presented. These recommendations look forwards to enabling more residents to be attracted to becoming councillors and the enjoyment of evenings like this. In the future, not least in 2029, when we have our next elections, that is what these allowances are proposing for now and up until the next elections. I support the independent panel. I see no point in, as they say, having a dog and doing your own barking. We should accept these recommendations and get on with our business, maybe just to get home earlier. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Harrington, please?
Yes, Chair. I'd just like to say that I shall refuse the increase as well. I'd just like to say that my constituents, a lot of them are at the moment experiencing great hardship. And I think it would be totally morally wrong of us to accept any increase at this stage. And I'd also like to just ask if we could have this as a recorded vote, please. Thank you.
If you want a recorded vote, we need to see the required number of 10 councillors to stand, please.
Okay.
No, that request.
Well,
Okay.
Okay. I'm one of 10 anyway.
Okay, so we don't have a requisite number. Can I see Councillor Humberstone, please? Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I echo the comments from my colleagues to thank the Remuneration panel for their detailed work they've done. Just a point of clarification, on page 99 of the agenda that we have this evening, there are 3 separate notes that we will not be voting on as part of recommendations. So I appreciate it might be a comment to take away from this meeting, but can I ask if those 3 comments in respect of SRAs will be taken and enacted by officers?
Okay, over to the monitoring officer.
Thank you, Councillor Humberston, for raising that point, and depending on the outcome of the vote, that point will be taken away and guidance will be given. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I see Councillor Baker, please?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Mr Davison for your attendance this evening and introduction of the report and recommendations. It's greatly appreciated. And our thanks to all members of the panel for their work in recent months to review the members' allowances scheme in accordance with the statutory requirements. We have no doubt at all that they've done a thorough job and that you've fulfilled your brief. Our position, however, is that the existing scheme should be rolled over to the 26-27 period, and we will not vote in favour of any recommendations that propose increases to existing allowances. I don't need to go into detail, Chair, but I'll simply say that we do not think it is appropriate to vote in favour of any recommended increases given the current climate and pressures faced by many of our residents. As a result, and in consideration of the options in paragraph 3.3, we note the recommendations but reject their implementation. We are therefore in favour of the current approved scheme remaining in place until any subsequent review is commissioned and recommendations considered. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Eddie MacDonald, please?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to speak about item number 4. Basically, when we took office, there were 2 planning committees. We decided, through fair meals or foul, that we would drop it to 1, which meant that all the work was coming through 1 committee. That obviously involves a lot more work for that individual, and I think this is a fair representation that that individual should therefore get an increased allowance. Also, we had 2 allowances under the old system. There's only 1 allowance now, which, though is increased, actually saves us £5,000. So I'm supportive of item number 4. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Fairhall, please?
I don't know if it's a speech or a question or a concern in terms of we've asked an independent panel to do some work. They've conducted that work very, very well. They presented a report to us. There has been a cost associated with that, and I'm slightly concerned that that cost is probably the equivalent of, if not more, than the cost of the recommendation that we're turning down. It just bemuses me at the point where we're trying to be efficient with our funding and move things forward, that we seem to be taking an independent report and then ignoring it and potentially requiring it to be done again at some point in the future.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor McElhenney, please?
Thank you, Chair. Also, thank you to the committee. I personally will be voting against this because I think that the majority of people who get involved in councils are doing it for the correct reasons for the residents and not for a financial remuneration. If anyone is doing it purely for financial purposes, then I think they shouldn't serve on the council, frankly. So I will be objecting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Dudbridge, please? Sorry if I got that wrong.
Dudbridge, yeah. While I recognise the concerns that are raised by Councillor Gibbs, and as one of the cohort that you've mentioned of working and with young families, it didn't stop any of us standing in May. That's not a disagreement, but as it currently stands, I think we agree on the points where there are no real changes, so everything from 2 onwards, I believe. And I appreciate, obviously, the work that has gone into this, but I do feel like, as it currently stands, our allowances are fine as they are. I won't be supporting an increase.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor David Howells, please?
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, it is you, sorry.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just a number of points, really. Over the course of the time I've been involved in local government, I've sat in meetings discussing remuneration through the independent panels, and I didn't respond to the questionnaires because, quite frankly, I felt at the time it was a completely waste of time, and tonight just bears that out. I have to agree with Councillor Gibbs on the points that he's making. It's no coincidence, Chair, that the last council was made up largely of people who are self-employed, retired or not seeking employment. I don't know what the makeup of this council is, and it doesn't really matter, but we are slowly but surely going down the route of discounting anybody to make a wider representation of our community, because anyone who wanted to sit and serve that was in employment and simply could not justify reducing their salary by taking a council allowance in substitute, it's just not feasible. And all we're doing all the time is degrading the work and the effort that's put in by hard-working elected members by not accepting the Remuneration Panel's independent assessment. And quite frankly, we ought to be voting on it. We ought to be accepting what they suggest without a discussion. And if we're going to carry on like this, there is just no point in bothering commissioning the work of these people to bother to do it. I have no idea how much they cost, but I'm pretty sure that it's not small. And the idea that this is going to somehow reduce the burden on the taxpayer is nonsense. This is a line in the budget. They don't receive a tax rebate by the fact that we don't accept 1.5. Now, I am personally in a very fortunate position that I don't need a 1.5 increase, but what we are doing is stopping future generations from joining a local authority because they can't make the figures work by reducing their hours of work. And that is why we'll always end up with the self-employed, the retired and the unemployed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Wendy Brackenbury, please?
Thank you, Chair. I think there's been some good words spoken just then. I'm not, but what I wanted to speak on was item 4 here. Chair, it does say up on the screen here that the Chair of Planning Committee has been matched to other committee chairs due to significant change in responsibility and workload in line with Chair of Licensing Appeals Committee. I do not argue about the fairness of that. I think it is fair. However, I'm not sure that the workload has increased significantly. For 2 years, I chaired the North Planning Committee. We met every 3 weeks, and on average, we determined 3 applications each committee. And I think for the 2 years I was chair, we had 2 meetings cancelled. So I can't talk about the South Committee, but certainly for the North, that is what we did. So I just wanted that on record. We had a good committee, members turning up regularly, and I just wanted to say that I don't think the workload has increased significantly. And then perhaps if it had, we wouldn't be looking at one committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Kirk Harrison, please?
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I agree actually with Councillor Gibbs and actually with Councillor Howes for once. I think allowances are really important. They do allow us to attract a more diverse councillor pool. However, I believe this decision is hugely inappropriate for us as a council to be making. Of course, we are legally required to undertake this work, to engage with the panel. We are also legally required to vote on its outcomes. However, it should not be for councillors to vote on their own remuneration. I believe it to be a huge conflict of interest. The law needs to be changed, and until it does, I intend to abstain on this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Colquhoun, please? Sorry, we were just trying to work out how to say it because I was getting tongue-tied.
Thank you, Chair. A bit surprised with some of the stuff here today. I oppose this idea of a further increase in councillors' allowances, which I believe are quite adequate just now. Certainly, I'm very pleased with my own allowance for the job I do. And I'm pleased to hear that some other members in the Chamber oppose the proposed increase also. This is a council that voted, myself included, for an increase in council tax, an extra burden on our residents. I think it's wrong if we sit here tonight and vote ourselves a bit of extra cash. Quite agree with Councillor McElhenney there. I think it was, he said, it might attract the wrong person. I know from experience, many years of experience in the trade union movement, that we used to pay, some trade unions, we used to pay branch officers a remuneration or a stipend. And quite often that attracted the wrong type of person. It attracted a person who was interested in that extra bit of cash, but not interested in the role that he or she took on. And while we're looking to get greater diversity of members on councils, offering extra money, I don't think is the way to do that. Must be another way of doing it, but we can't go throwing money, if you like, at the sort of person that we're trying to attract. It's been mentioned there that we should agree to the recommendation because it came to us from an external stroke independent body. Is that to say that every time we have an external group or external experts, then we should vote in favour? Of course not. That's ludicrous. Then we wouldn't need a council at all. The officers could just hire a load of experts and all the councillors could just go home. That's not an argument at all. As an argument from Councillor Howes, a very weak one. I oppose this. I hope the fellow members will also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor David Brackenbury, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm in a slightly awkward position, Chair, here. I'm in agreement with Councillors Harrison and Hakewill simultaneously. I don't know if that's ever been done before, but it is a remarkable position. I absolutely think that we go to all this trouble. We appoint a review board to go through to work on the allowances that members receive and all the various complexities that are in that. And now, as has happened before, we say, okay, thank you very much for all your hard work, brilliant, excellent, so we're going to ignore it. Now, that's fine, and I get it, I understand the fiscal position the country's in, and I understand the difficulties that many constituents face. I 100% agree with Councillor Kirk Harrison, in that, no, members should not be voting on the allowances that they receive. It is, as he rightly points out, a potential conflict of interest, and it is just wrong. We shouldn't be making this decision, colleagues, for this council, for all of us. This should be a decision taken for a hypothetical council that none of us are members of. What is it right to pay to members as an allowance, or as an SRA, or as all the other complexities indicated on the recommendations? Not for us. It's not for us, in my view, to say, well, I think, we should take the cash, wonderful. It isn't for us to say, well, actually, I think, our constituents have had a hard time, we shouldn't take anything. It's not for us to make that decision. It should not be. So what we really ought to be doing is making a decision for this other council. So my point about Kirk Harrison's view is we should not really be voting on this item at all. It should any allowances or any increment in any allowances should not be done by us. Also, I do not think that we should be going to the trouble of appointing an independent review body on an annual basis. I appreciate we do have to have an independent review body statutorily, but we should not be asking them to do the work on an annual basis if we're then going to rip it up and ignore it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Ben Williams, please?
Thank you, Chair. I think most of the debate that we've just had now is mainly on item 1, which is, I think we've had a good debate on that. I don't think I necessarily need to add anything to that, but I just wanted to say item 7, that does seem like something that is new, and I personally think that's quite a positive thing. If we're trying to discuss bringing in a more diverse group of people, the right group of people into wanting to be councillors, I think, parents being one of those groups would probably appreciate that being something that is introduced. Everything else I'm looking at, and it kind of looks the same as what we have, but I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor McLean, please?
Thank you, Chair. Back before I stood for the council and spent most of my time shouting at the TV, I decided to stand for council. And luckily, I won that. But the first time I knew that there was an allowance is when the chap who was filling out all the paperwork asked for my bank details. I didn't actually know that there was an allowance, and that wasn't the reason why I stood. With this rise that we're being asked to take, I think at the moment, because we're in this situation to having to vote, all we can do is use our own conscience to make a decision. For me, I'm lucky to be in a place where the allowance is not particularly important to me, but there will be a lot of there may be some members in here who it will be important to them in their daily lives. So I'd just like to say I will just use my conscience to vote, and that's about it, really. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Helen Harrison, please?
Thank you. So I'd just like to point to point 3.2 in the report, which is the fair remuneration principle. And it summarises that remuneration should not be an incentive for service as a councillor, nor should lack of remuneration be a barrier. So it's really lovely to hear, for instance, that Councillor McLean didn't even know that there was an amount of money that would be paid if he became a councillor. But what that suggests to me is it wasn't a consideration because it didn't need to be a consideration, because I presume Councillor McLean was able to do this despite the fact that he didn't know there was any money attached to it. But of course that doesn't cover everybody. There are a lot of people who may think about they'd like to be a councillor, but if the remuneration isn't sufficient, as other people have said, they would not be able to put themselves forward. And I think the one thing that I've heard over and over again is that in the chamber tonight is that we're going through a time when the people in our community are struggling. And I just stand, and every time I listen to it, I think, how do you know that there aren't people in this chamber who are also financially struggling at the moment? You're assuming that none of us are. You're assuming that we're all doing very nicely, thank you, and that the allowance is a nice little added extra. I'm not going to ask everyone in this chamber how they're doing, but there may be some people in this chamber who are beginning to think, I don't know if I can keep doing this, and there may be people who are put off doing it in the future. I just give you that perspective because I think the reason that people have jumped up to say, oh, this is a terrible thing, we must not accept a 1.5% pay rise, is because they're doing it for political reasons. And I don't mean that they're trying to attack anybody else in the chamber. I think they're scared of what other people out there might say. And so they're doing it because of that, not because of what they think is right or wrong. So I just remind you, you may have colleagues in this chamber who are also struggling with the cost of living right now. Just think about that. That's all I say.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I see Councillor Livermore, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just a point for number 8 on there. I wanted to raise it in particular around the independent persons allowance. It's something that I was pushing for before this review was put in. So I'm glad to see that our independent persons will no longer have a cap on their allowance. In particular, for as chair of the Audit and Governance Committee, our independent person on there serves a very good purpose, and it was a shame that it was capped at, I think it was £2,000. So I'm glad that this particular thing is up for review, and I should be voting in favour for it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Sorry? No one else to speak, so I can confirm there are no other speakers. Can I see Councillor Griffiths to close the debate?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Chair. I'll try and cover as many of those points as I can. This is a free vote. It is a vote of conscience. Councillor Howes asked earlier about how much this panel costs. Actually, if you look at item 8, it tells you, if you do a bit of arithmetic, how much this panel has cost. Councillor Fairhall mentioned about the need to have the actual panel. It is a legal requirement. We don't make the law, we don't make the rules at North Northamptonshire Council, we have to adhere to them. Councillor Brackenbury, this happens all over the country. You know that. We are faced with taking a decision that we don't really want to take, but we're not the only council that are in this position. It's the system that we have to adhere to. And don't get me going on what happens when MPs have a panel, a determination of their allowance, but slightly different. Councillor Harrison mentioned about whether we've got people in hardship within our group. I know my group. My whip knows my group exceedingly well, and I can assure you that we would know if anybody was suffering hardship and assist them in any way we can. Being a councillor is a vocation. That's exactly what it is. It isn't a job, it's a vocation. We're here to represent the people that voted for us, and also the people that may not have voted for us in our ward. That is what being a councillor is all about. Mr Davison, I'm sorry you've not seen us at our best. What is happening here tonight is not normal for a North Northamptonshire Council, I can assure you. So with that, I think it's time that we went to the vote and got on with the voting that takes place.
This has been a thoroughly respectful debate where people have had a difference of opinion on this very important piece of work that's been done. I think that's pretty insulting to suggest that because there's been disagreement, there's something wrong with the debate. It's what we're here for. well, I wish we weren't here for this particular item. We should, you know, we're all uncomfortable about talking about what we should or shouldn't get as an allowance. But to suggest that there's something wrong with the way we've discussed it is, I think, it's a bit insulting.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison, for raising that point of order. And whilst it isn't technically a point of order, I'm sure that others in the chamber observe that point, and that Mr Davison is aware of political debate that happens in any chamber.
Council. Sorry. Can we thank the independent panels of council, because I'm sure they were not overly remunerated. So,
thank you, Councillor McElhenney. I'll leave that to the discretion of the chair whether he'd like to invite a few words before you move to the vote.
Yeah, I personally would like to thank you for your time on all the effort you and your team have put into this. So hopefully this has been worthwhile for you, whether the decision goes in favour or against. So right now I would like to move to a vote. So please use your electronic voting button, which will appear in your microphone. Once the vote has commenced, you will have 30 seconds to vote, but there's also different sections. So please follow the screen above and go from that, and I will tell you when to vote and when not to.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results were as follows: 5 in favour, 30 against, 18 abstentions.
The vote has been lost. Right, so we're going to move on to the next recommendation, which you will see on the screen above. Which section is it? Have you got it on the screen? You can go with a vote, please.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results were as follows: 44 in favour, 7 against, 2 abstentions.
The vote has been carried. We'll move to the next vote, and it is item number 3. Please, eyes down. Over to the vote.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results are as follows: 50 in favour, 1 against, 2 abstentions.
The vote has been carried, nearly a full house. So we'll go to the next vote when you're ready, please.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results are as follows: 35 in favour, 3 against, 15 abstentions.
Okay, the vote has been carried. We will move to the next vote when you're ready, please. Please follow the screen.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results are as follows: 55 in favour, 0 against, 1 abstention.
The vote has been carried. Thank you very much. Please turn your attention to the screen for the next vote. When you're ready, please.
The vote on recommendation number 6 has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has ended. The results are as follows: 55 in favour, 0 against, 1 abstention.
The vote has been carried. Is there one more? How many more we got left? Number 7, sorry, I don't have it right in front of me. And when you're ready.
The vote for recommendation 7 has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has ended. The results are as follows: 53 in favour, 0 against, 1 abstention.
Vote has been carried. Please send your eyes to the screen again for the next vote. When you're ready, please.
The vote on recommendation number 8 has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has ended. The results are as follows: 48 in favour, 0 against, 4 abstentions.
Vote has been carried. Please turn your eyes to the screen for another 2 times, I believe. When you're ready, please.
The vote on recommendation number 9 has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results are as follows: 46 in favour, 0 against, 6 abstentions. The final vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has ended. The results are as follows: 53 in favour, 0 against, 1 abstention.
I would like to say that one pass, and that was Yeah, carried. And the one before that was carried. Sorry, we were trying to sort something out during that. So it's fine. We're finally finished. I can promise you. So, yeah. So, thank you very much. So, shall we move on to the next agenda? Agenda number 7.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask for the clarification again on the decision before was that the notes would depend on whether the motion passed, but obviously some have passed and some haven't, so how does that affect taking those forward?
Yep, so as the monitoring officer, I do have discretion in how they're applied and the presentation of those. Those notes do not feature as recommendations within the panel, so they're effectively discretionary. So I will take a view in light of the voting this evening and how that applies, and that will then be communicated to all members. If there are any concerns about that, we may convene another panel to look at that discrete issue. But given the debate that's happened this evening, I'm not sure if that would be necessary on this occasion.
Thank you both very much. So we will now move to item number 7, Municipal Timetable. Please may I see Councillor Martin Griffiths to move the recommendation for this report.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Chair, and this should be a lot easier, I hope. I'm pleased to move the municipal timetable for 2026-2027 as set out in our Constitution. The Council is required to agree a calendar of meetings before the start of each municipal year. Over recent months, officers have been pulling this together, and the timetable now before you sets out all the formal council and committee meetings for the year ahead and beyond into late 2027. This excludes those ad hoc meetings such as licensing subcommittees and the employment committee, which will continue to be arranged as needed. Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendations set out in this report.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I please see Councillor Eddie MacDonald to second that recommendation, please?
Yes, Chair, I second this draft timetable. Thank you.
Okay, so there's no one to. I've got no one on my panel to speak. So if it's okay, we will move back to Councillor Mark. Do you have anything else to add to that, Councillor Griffiths?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so everyone will be quite pleased with this motion now. It's just going a bit quicker for everyone. So. Yeah. Thank you. We will now move to a vote. Please use your electronic voting button, which will appear on the microphone in unit once the vote is commenced. You will have 30 seconds to vote. Thank you very much.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results are as follows. 49 in favour, 0 against, 0 abstentions.
The vote has been carried. Agenda 8. Councillors' questions. Thank you. We will now move on to the questions submitted by councillors. One question has been submitted to this meeting. Question and answers have been circulated and will be taken as read. I will therefore invite for a supplementary question and ask that the supplementary question and response, should there be concern? Concise. Yeah, just keep it concise. Keep it to short, please. Councillor Baker, do you have a supplementary question? Sorry, getting tongue-tied.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, I don't. So let me just offer my thanks to everybody involved in providing the figures to the question that I submitted. They do seem very positive indeed. And whilst comparison is the thief of joy, our figures do seem to stack up with our neighbouring unitary authorities in this regard. So that's really positive. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so on that note, we will move over to any urgent items. I can confirm there are no urgent items of business to be carried out on this agenda. So, on that note, I would like to close the meeting. Hopefully it's been all right for everyone and for my first one, but I would like to thank everyone who's participated and all the officers and members and thank the members of public for watching on YouTube. I wish you all a safe journey home, and hopefully the traffic's not too bad